Now we're going to try working into a chain to make a double crochet, and this is a UK double crochet. Americans refer to our UK double crochet as a single crochet. We do not have a single crochet in UK terminology. So if you ever open a pattern or you're looking at a tutorial that uses single crochet, it is American, and they are referring to the UK double crochet. So I use the UK terminology. We're going to do a UK double crochet. Now we're going to hold our chain with our left hand, and we're going to work the opposite way to which we would read a book. So we would read or write from left to right, but we're going to work from right, where our hook is, to the left. Now we've made some chains already, and the chain, this is known as the foundation chain because this is the foundation on which we're going to build the rest of our stitches. Now what we're going to do is we're going to make our first double crochet, and what I'm going to do, all patterns are slightly different, but for the sake of this tutorial, I'm actually going to this is our first chain here. You see this one here? This is almost like a V shape. That is our first chain there, but I'm going to avoid that one, and we're going to make a stitch into the next hole. So can you see? This would be the first V. So this is the second stitch here. So I'm going to put my hook under that first stitch. Now our double crochet starts with a yarn over, and can you see that my hook pushes against my yarn so that my yarn comes from the back of the hook over the front. So we're going to yarn over, and then we're going to pull it through the stitch that we had our hook in. So we've now got 2 loops on our hook. Now that's 1/2 of a double crochet. To complete the stitch, we're going to do another yarn over. So the yarn again comes from the back to the front over our hook, and we're going to pull that yarn through both of the loops that are now on our hook. So this little thing here is a double crochet. I'm going to show you that again in the next stitch along. Now can you see, just going to remove my hook quickly, this part here is the stitch we just made, and this is the hole that it's sat in. So this is our double crochet, and this is the chain that it's in. Now we need to put a stitch into the next chain. So if this is the first chain we've worked into, this is going to be the second. So this is the hole that I'm going to put the next stitch in. Okay, I'll put my hook back in there. So we're going to go under here, and we're going to get our yarn over again and pull it through that stitch that we've chosen. And then we're going to yarn over and pull it through both of the loops that are now on our hook. So again, this little stitch here is the stitch we just made, and this is the chain space that it's sat in. So our next chain over is this one here. So I'm going to put my hook into the chain. Can you see that here? These are all the chains that we're going to be working under here. So this is the one we're going to go into now, and then the next time it will be under this bar, and then under this bar, and then under this bar. Okay, so we put our yarn into the stitch, and we're going to yarn over, and we're going to pull that yarn through the stitch. So we've got 1/2 of a double crochet with our 2 loops here. We're then going to yarn over and pull through both loops. Okay, I'm going to speed it up ever so slightly now. So we're going to go into the next stitch, and we're going to pull our yarn through that stitch. So we've got 1/2, we've got our 2 loops, and now we're going to yarn over and pull that yarn through the 2 loops that we had. Same again, under the next bar along, the next chain. Put our hook under, we're going to pull that yarn through the stitch, so we've got our 2 loops, and then yarn over and pull through both loops. Hook into the next stitch and yarn over and pull through that loop, so we've got 2 loops. Now yarn over and pull through both. So they're the 2 movements to do a double crochet. You put your hook into the next stitch and pull your yarn through to get the first half, and then yarn over and pull it through both stitches to make the second half. Into the stitch and pull the yarn through, yarn over and pull through both. And then the last one, there's one more bar in there, and it's a little bit difficult to see because it's the very last one, so it tends to be a little bit tighter where the knot is. You go underneath the bar and pull that yarn through to give you both loops on your hook, and then yarn over and pull it through both loops. So that's our little row of double crochet. I'm going to show you how we then crochet into some double crochet stitches that are already made instead of working into a chain. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start by having a look at where our stitches are. This one in here is one double crochet. This is another, another, another. Can you see they almost have these little legs at the bottom and then a band across the top? So they've got little legs and then a band across the top. Can you see those? Now what we want to do is we want to make sure we put our hook into the right place. Now when we put our hook through the stitch, what we want to find on top of our hook is that we've got both legs of the stitch, or both loops. And I'll explain that in a minute. I'll show you the difference between that and not getting both. So we're going to do the same process where we pull our yarn through the stitch and then yarn over and pull through both loops. So we've made another double crochet there. And again, we're going to put into the next hole. Can you see this has opened up a hole really nicely here? Come on. So you can now see the hole that we've used to put that stitch in. And this is the next hole in here. You can see these little holes. They look quite tight, but these are the holes in here that we're going to use. And my hook does go through them. It's just because I've used quite a thick yarn, they're not as easy to see. Okay. So this is our next hole here. We're going to push our hook through, and this is what I mean when I said we make sure we get both parts of the stitch on top. Can you see the bits that run across the top of my hook? There are 2 loops there, and we need to make sure we capture both loops. It's not necessarily wrong if you only go under one. Can you see? I don't know how clear that is. I sort of split the stitch in half. And that's not necessarily wrong. That's a special kind of stitch called a front loop only, and that will give a different effect. So if we're going to do a normal double crochet, we want to push our hook through and make sure we've got both of the loops of the stitch on top of our hook. So we're going to go through the stitch and pull our yarn through. So we've got our 2 loops on our hook, and then wrap the yarn over and pull through both loops. And again, into the next hole, making sure we've got both loops there. So we've got the whole stitch. We're going to pull our yarn through, and we're going to yarn over and pull through both loops. Into the next hole, making sure we've got both parts, pull our yarn through, yarn over and pull through both loops. Into the next hole, pull our yarn through, yarn over, pull through both loops. Into the next hole, pull our yarn through, yarn over and pull through both loops. And you carry on doing that all the way to the end. So you can see here I've got 1, 2, 3 stitches left to do, and it's really important that you don't miss that last stitch, otherwise your crochet will gradually taper in and in and in, where you're always missing 1 stitch every row, so your row will become 1 stitch shorter each time. And if you start with 10, you'll very rapidly get down to just a handful of stitches left. So there's 1, 2 and 3 left.